hope I can bring it home for you guys. This will be the best look I believe Nathan ever brought to the stage.
What's up guys and welcome. You are watching Fazi Fitness. So guys, channel membership is now live. Link is in the description and the first comment. Do check it out. That would really help support the channel. So let's start this video with Dubai Pro. As all the superstars of bodybuilding attended the athletes meeting. And there are potentially 4 guys who could win this show tomorrow in the Men's Open. So let us take a look at some of the final physique updates from some of these competitors. First of all, we have Nathan Ever. The density and the muscle maturity on this guy, that is looking so phenomenal. And Nathan doesn't care about what the media has been saying in regards to his long torso or his hamstrings or the fact that his chances of stepping back on the Olympia stage, they are very little. He has put in the work and he looks to be in the best shape of his life right now. Now, I must say, even for a guy like Nathan, who changes very fast when he drops the hammer, this type of conditioning, that must have been very difficult to achieve. And this is him, before he got the muffins, or before doing any of the carbs loading. So he must be very flat here. And his physique, his muscles, they will come back to life once they introduce some carbs into his system. Because we have seen this from Nathan in the past, that he comes in bursting full. Especially the way he showed up for Flex Pro Italy last year. All he has to worry about is to make sure that his waistline, his midsection, that remains very tight. Now, Nathan assured everyone that in chasing this sort of conditioning, he made sure that he doesn't lose his back. Because we have seen it in the past, that he comes in very awesome from the front, but he looks kind of vulnerable in those back shots, especially from the waist down. Now, Nathan Ever will always be a very exciting competitor. I mean, even last year, he did beat Bonac, and that means he could have been top 7 or top 8 at the Olympia still. So Nathan is a very fiery competitor on the stage. And he's gonna fight for the win tomorrow. Although Tonio Burton and his coach, they said that the last update that they posted on Friday, that will be the last one before this show. But here he is one more time, and it seems like there is nothing to hide. So this is Tonio Burton, one day out of this year's Dubai Pro Show, very committed to beating his Legion Sports look, where he appeared after a gap of 1 year, and he looked way bigger and way more polished, but maybe a little less sharp. And that is by his own standards. But this time he's working to bring an even better version to this year's Dubai Pro stage. Because the lineup here, that is much more difficult. So I have to ask you guys, isn't that front double biceps a bit underrated in the Men's Open? It's so flawless, especially when Tonio is standing all by himself. And that is what we are gonna witness tomorrow. So has he built enough size in the past 1 year? He can stand next to some of these veterans of the sport, some of the bigger guys, and equally athletic guys. Because up until last year, he was looking a bit under-muscled. Now, irrespective of what he weighs on the stage, he can place way higher than the experts predicted. So I certainly hope that Tonio did not watch the recent episode of the Menace podcast, because not a single expert on that panel had Tonio Burton even placing in the top 5. Remember, he's a former top 8 Olympian, and the physique that he brought to this year's Legion Sports stage, that was better in every shape and form compared to back in 2023. So Nihat, the young phenomenon, who is just 22 years old, he was over the weight limit for the 212 by 6 pounds, and that was 3 days out from this year's Dubai Pro. But with Patrick Tour in his corner as his coach, there was never any doubt that the weight making process, that is gonna be a problem. So Nihat was able to make the weight 212 on the dot, and this update from him just before the weigh-ins, that will definitely scare some top competitors, especially if they aren't bringing their 100%. So no other words can be used to describe this kind of physique other than absolutely mind-blowing. And this must be him on very low carbs and on the flat mat, and very depleted too in terms of the water. So cannot imagine what he's gonna look like on the stage once he is fully loaded, and he gets harder and harder by the hour. So this kid is very special. You never see this kind of detail and maturity on a guy who is just 22 years old. He is definitely one of the fastest growing IFBB pro in the entire industry at the moment. But him already maxing out that 212 weight class, that also goes to show us that they will have to work on their strategy for the future. He just cannot get any bigger, and maybe he doesn't need to. All he needs is more refinement. And Patrick Tour, he did send a warning shot after getting to meet Nihat in person, comparing the size that he was carrying last year versus this year. Rubiel Mosquera aka Nexilla checks in for this upcoming Dubai Pro, and the man showed up in his own unique style. So who else out there agrees that the one guy whom we are all very excited to see back on the stage after a gap of 1 year on this year's Dubai Pro stage, that is Rubiel. Because the fact is, if Rubiel is in shape, anything can happen. Even if he's somewhere in the 90s range, in terms of conditioning, the size on that guy, that just cannot be ignored. Now we all know who is gonna dwarf everyone in terms of the legs department, because those are undoubtedly the biggest legs in the entire men's open at the moment. Which brings us to another interesting question. Will Rubiel ever have more separated and more feathered quads? I think the answer to that is no. It has nothing to do with how he trains them. It's how his genetics are. Ronnie Coleman was one of the hardest trainers of his time, probably of all time, and he never had feathered quads. So coming back to Rubiel, he has to come in bone dry and absolutely shredded, and you simply cannot count him out, especially of the possibility of him cracking top 3 at this upcoming Dubai Pro. But that being said, if he comes in off, there is a very high likelihood that he won't even be in the top 5, because Dubai Pro lineup this year, that is a very deep one, and the margin of error here, that is still very little. Now, even in that case, where Rubiel doesn't do very well here, we would still all want to see Rubiel continue to compete after this year's Dubai Pro. He hasn't won his first pro show just yet, but the fact is he's a very big name in the men's open, and he attracts a lot of crowd, and we would certainly want to see him on the Olympia stage. And we have to keep in mind, that guy is just 29 years old, and he has a very bright future ahead, if he can stay focused on being a bodybuilder. So Michael the Bull is the biggest classic physics star in this year's Dubai Pro lineup, and the man managed to make the weight cutoff. But as always, he had to suffer very hard, especially in those final 3 days, in order to accomplish that goal. But now he has plenty of time to put some carbs into his system and come in bursting full and bring a very hard look to this upcoming Dubai Pro stage. So I think this time he's gonna go with a more of a moderate approach in terms of the carbs loading, because he was having some issues with his waistline and in his midsection in the last couple of shows that he did. But that being said, right now the man looks absolutely skinless, front to back, in the last posing video that he just posted on his recent story. And that also explains the shaking while posing that we have seen from him and other competitors too, because they are running on such low food and such low amount of calories. Now Michael the Bull's resume as a classic physique competitor, that speaks for itself. 8 pro wins, which I think is second on the list after Terence Ruffin. Plus, he has been a constant top 6 or top 7 Olympian in the past couple of years. So Michael is clearly the favorite to win this show and the biggest paycheck of his career, which is gonna be 70k tomorrow. So hit the thumbs up button if you liked the video, and smash the subscribe button if you wanna come back for more. Thanks for watching.